Okay, here we go with the end of our read aloud for today. I'm trying this video on my laptop instead of on my phone, and we're going to see how it goes. If it is a good quality, then this is a good tool for me to have to be able to download things a little bit quicker. So here we go. "I'll never do anything nasty to a cat again as long as I live," said Shasta, half to the cat and half to himself. "I did once, you know. I threw stones at a mangy, old, half-starved stray. Hey, stop that!" For the cat had turned round and given him a scratch. "None of that," said Shasta. "It isn't as if you could understand what I'm saying." And then he dozed off. Next morning when he woke, the cat was gone, the sun was already up, and the sand was hot. Shasta, very thirsty, sat up and rubbed his eyes. The desert was blindingly white, and though there was the murmur of noises from the city behind him, where he sat everything was perfectly still. When he looked a little left and west, so that the sun was not in his eyes, he could see the mountains on the far side of the desert, so sharp and clear that they looked only a stone's throw away. He particularly noticed one blue height that divided into two peaks at the top, and decided that it must be Mount Pyre. "That's our direction, judging by what the raven said," he thought. "So I'll just make sure of it, so as not to waste any time when the others turn up." So he made a good, deep, straight furrow with his foot, pointing exactly to Mount Pyre. The next job, clearly, was to get something to eat and drink. Shasta trotted back through the tombs. They looked quite ordinary now, and he wondered how he ever could have been afraid of them, and down into the cultivated land by the riverside. There were a few people about, but not very many, for the city gates had been open several hours, and the early morning crowds had already gone in. So he had no difficulty in doing a little raiding, as Bree called it. It involved a climb over a garden wall, and the results were 3 oranges, a melon, a fig or 2, and a pomegranate. After that he went down to the riverbank, but not too near the bridge, and had a drink. The water was so nice that he took off his hot, dirty clothes and had a dip, for of course Shasta, having lived on the shore all his life, had learned to swim almost as soon as he had learned to walk. When he came out, he lay on the grass, looking across the water at Tashbaan, all the splendor and strength and glory of it. But that made him remember the dangers of it too. He suddenly realized that the others might have reached the tombs while he was bathing, and had gone on without me as likely as not. So he dressed in a fright and tore back at such a speed that he was all hot and thirsty when he arrived, and so the good of his bathe was gone. Like most days when you are alone and waiting for something, this day seemed about 100 hours long. He had plenty to think of course, but sitting alone just thinking is pretty slow. He thought a good deal about the Narnians, and especially about Corin. He wondered what had happened when they discovered that the boy who had been lying on the sofa and hearing all their secret plans wasn't really Corin at all. It was very unpleasant to think of all those nice people imagining him a traitor. But as the sun slowly climbed up to the top of the sky, and then slowly began going downwards to the west, and no one came, and nothing at all happened, he began to get more and more anxious. And of course he now realized that when they arranged to meet for one another at the tombs, no one had said anything about how long. He couldn't wait here for the rest of his life, and soon it would be dark again, and he would have another night just like last night. A dozen different plans went through his head, all wretched ones, and at last he fixed on the worst plan of all. He decided to wait until it was dark, and then go back to the river and steal as many melons as he could carry, and set out for Mount Pyre alone, trusting for his direction to the line he had drawn that morning in the sand. It was a crazy idea, and if he had read as many books as you have about journeys over desert, he would never have dreamed of it. But Shasta had read no books at all. Before the sun set, something did happen. Shasta was sitting in the shadow of one of the tombs when he looked up and saw 2 horses coming towards him. Then his heart gave a great leap, for he recognized them as Bree and Ewan. But the next moment his heart went down into his toes again. There was no sign of Erebus. The horses were being led by a strange man, an armed man, dressed handsomely like an upper slave in a great family. Bree and Ewan were no longer got up like pack horses, but saddled and bridled. But what could it all mean? "It's a trap," thought Shasta. "Someone has caught Erebus, and perhaps they've tortured her, and she's given the whole thing away. They want me to jump out and run up and speak to Bree, and then I'll be caught too, and yet if I don't, I may be losing my only chance to meet the others. Oh, I do wish I knew what had happened." And he skulked behind the tomb, looking out every few minutes, and wondering which was the least dangerous thing to do. We'll pick up here tomorrow.